mod pack, which, no, not really, just Space-Y mod, but it is a mod that adds very heavy parts to the Kerbal Space Program. Like instead of having 3.75 meter parts, which were available in the NASA expansion, we now have 5 meter diameter parts, and I like it because it feels very stock alike. And as you see, I'm getting into the world now. And then we'll commence our review. Yeah, thanks, Gene. I'm not new at this game. Well, anyways, let's go into the VAB and look at the parts. Yeah, I get it wrong. Anyways, so we have a normal command pod, which will be excessively small compared to the parts that are shown in here. So for our fuel tanks, we have, because I have so many mods that, you know, it's kind of a hassle navigating around. But here we have the Space-Y stuff. Like, here's a fuel tank, a 5 meter fuel tank, and as you can see, that is very big compared to the 1.25 meter capsule. And, they can be various sizes compared to, and even this ginormous thing, which is glitching through the screen right now, and that's not all. Not only they have fuel tanks, but they have ginormous engines too. Like, see this one? This is a stock engine that produces about 2,000 kilonewtons of thrust. Well, we can do way more than that. So these are the Space-Y engines. Well, some of them, obviously not like the stock ones, but here we have the Space-Y K1 Kiwi engine, which, as you can see, produces 425 kilonewtons of thrust, and is about the size, and about 1.25 meter size. And then we have the Space-Y M1 MOA heavy lift engine, which is a little bigger than the 2.5 meter variety, which produces about 1,000 kilonewtons of thrust, which obviously is kind of like a mainsail, but a little bit more efficient. You see, it kind of has that higher specific impulse, which means it's, like I said, it's more efficient. And then we have these, which are clusters of engines, and I think this one is the 5 meter kind, and this is like a really low power. As you see, it says max thrust 3520 and 4400. That basically means that the main and one of the internal engines cuts out. Like, you can have that keybind with an action group or something like that. And let's look at it here. Yeah, you can see you can do automatic switching, manual switching, and then toggle. See, center off, which I suspected was the internal cutout. But we have much more to offer. This pack is much more to offer, including this one, which is a kind of like a SpaceX, kind of like the Merlin engines, not the cluster of 9 Merlin engines, except they're in the 5 meter size, and they produce a lot of thrust. Look at that max thrust of 8,200, and this kind of works like the SpaceX. Like, you toggle this to the center only for the recovering of the booster, and because you have a lot less fuel, so you need a lot less thrust. But anyways, back to the engines. Then we have this one, which is a super heavy lift engine, which is, I think, is this in the 2.5 or the 3.75? Let's see. That looks like it's still a 2.5. That looks like a heavy 2.5, which could be a good replacement for, like, say, a mainsail or something like that. I mean, this provides even more thrust than the other one, which I showed you was the largest 2.5 meter engine in the stock variety. But anyway, this produces 2,200 thrust, 315 specific impulse in a vacuum, 315 seconds. And then this is the mother of all engines. This is the Retite super heavy lift cluster, which produces a maximum thrust of 11,000. This would be something you like make on a model Saturn V. Like, look, it has like these 5 ginormous engines on the bottom, and I'm suspecting that you can have the center mold cut out exactly like they would in the Apollo program, which is very, very awesome, you know. Then we have these ejectatrons, which are aptly named after the smaller cousin, the separatrons. And let's see what they look like here. They're pretty decent size. And as these kind of look like separatrons, except they have a lot more thrusts because they're needed to because the parts that they're separating weigh a lot more, and so you need a lot higher thrust to produce any acceleration away from the core stage. But now we are on to the SRBs. The smallest is this Space Y S109 heavy lift solid rocket booster, and the difference between these Space Ys and the stocks and the stock SRBs is that, see, this has, I'm gonna give a comparison. Like this one. See, it's 1.25 and this one's 2.5 meter variety, but the difference is that this one produces a lot less thrust than this one, and this is like for these guys you'd use if you wanted little thrust to like last you a long time. See, this one uses 38 solid fuel a second, while this guy uses 118, which is, I mean, you wouldn't use it for something like this, where you had the capsule and the SRB on top, because that would just be wasteful, because you lose a lot of your velocity in the atmosphere. But these are meant for, like, heavy lift, big rockets like I was showing you. But a key to this is that, since, thinking a couple updates ago, they introduced the thrust limiter, so you can, limit, like I said, you can limit how much thrust, like, you get, and this is really crucial in, I know I use MechJeb, call me a cheater, but, I also use it for testing the, where is it? No, it's on Delta V. The thrust to weight ratio right here to see if it'll lift off the ground or not. And see, this thrust to weight ratio is way too high, so you can lower it down to something manageable, like 1 point something or whatever. And so that's showcasing the what is it called again? The S109 heavy lift solid rocket booster. And now we move on to its bigger brother, the Space Y S115 heavy lift solid rocket booster, which uses a little bit more fuel and has a little bit more thrust, but is about twice as large. I mean, this is like probably comparable to, I'd say, an SRB from the shuttle, because it kind of has that look that you'd expect, like the four segments and all. But you know, you can do the same exact thing with the thrust limiter. And look at the solid. I've never shown you like how the solid fuel. Like, look at the solid fuel. This has 5,625 solid fuel. Well, you look at, like, I remember back in the days when the only solid rocket motors were this, and look how much solid fuel. 433. Compare that to 5,000. Like, yeah, you can get a sense of the scale that we're dealing with here. And not much more to say about it, you know. You probably use this for, like, I would test this with a shuttle, but the problem with shuttles is that the center of mass always changes, and you have to have, like, very high gimbaling engines to adjust for the center of mass, or your thing just goes out of control. And this one is a shorter cousin of this one, and is in the 3.5 meter variety, I think. Let me see. Yeah, that's in 3.5 meter variety. What's cool when you get bigger is that they don't just have one nozzle like in the other ones, if I were to bring this up. Like, see, this one has one nozzle. But these have 4 separate nozzles, which I don't think is in any other mod that I've seen. But as you can see, this one has just a little bit more solid fuel. It's like a shorter, it's like this in the 3.75 meter variety. And, well, it has 6,000 solid fuel. No, about 7,000. And it has a little bit more thrust than this guy. And, yeah, like it says, it burns for 42 seconds. And after this, we're gonna see how this does and test this out. But, I mean, this will probably do very badly in the atmosphere because of the insane thrust-to-weight ratio. Look, let's see here. 4.8 on the thrust-to-weight ratio. That would just go flying. But that's not as high as this one. I think it was like 6 or something like that. Anyways, let's go to the other, in the longer version in 3. Yeah, I know. But the longer version in 3.75 meter variety, which is the S217, which has a thrust of 3,800, which is pretty nice, and see it as the same 4 nozzle combination, but, you know, it's just, all it is just longer, and it has 11,000 solid fuel, you know. And on to the last one, which is the longest version of the 3.75 meter variety, and it has 5,000 thrust, it weighs 137 tons. Like, look at this. Like, compare that to the one-man capsule. It's just insane. But as a final little treat, I will launch this out on the pad and have it crash hilariously. Let's just wait for it to load. Hopefully it doesn't destroy itself, like in, because in 0.90, no, I think it's in 0.25 they had destructible facilities, so, I mean, I thought the rest of it could waste so much. No using Wreck Jeb on this, just the SAS that we have, and let's see how high this can go. Jeb, you ready to die from the high? You ready to, like, be pushed back into your seat times a million? Well, here it goes. 3, 2, 1. Well, it's doing surprisingly well. Okay. Yeah, and then re-entry effect. No, I think Mach effects comes first, so. Let's see how this does. I should probably put on 4 times time acceleration. I'm gonna try to do a gravity turn like I would normally, like, you know, because it has such a high delta V, but I'm not sure if this is gonna go anywhere, so I'm just gonna keep it pointed straight up, and so you can get you get the Mach effects right there, and now I'm getting re-entry effects. Great. See, the problem with these big rocket designs on a small little capsule is that I mean, you're pushing. It's like a single stage vehicle, so you're really pushing the entire mass of the booster itself, and that really doesn't help with. See, now we end up with the apoapse of about 250 kilometers, and so I will leave you with a hilarious splashdown, and to the inevitable fate of Jebediah Kerman. So here goes. Why is... Oh, yeah, I should probably... Or just wait till physics glitch me out. I will work on video montages for like this, but, I mean, this is the best I could do for now. So, looks like we're gonna crash into the mountains, and I don't know a good crash phrase now, because I'm thinking of Scott Manley's, but that would just be copying his, so... If you have any good suggestions for, like, outro, I mean, I'm all ears. So, let's just watch, and, oh, that's gonna be tough. Jebediah is gonna go going head first. Kind of like how a V2 rocket hits, like, you know, hits its target, but 3, 2, 1, dead. And I leave you at that.